Welcome, everyone. I'm Karen Stein with the Office of Student Assessment.
And I am Kristen Sievers-Kofer with the Office of Special Education. The purpose of this presentation is to provide schools with information about the changes to the alternate assessment and statewide accountability and follow-up actions that need to be taken by some corporations based on their 2016-17 alternate assessment participation data. The purpose of this recording is to communicate the accountability changes for the state and the subsequent requirements for public corporations and charter schools.
The Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, changes the way the 1% cap is calculated. Under No Child Left Behind, states were required to cap the proficient scores on the alternate assessment of public schools and corporations and charter schools at 1%, meaning only 1% of alternate assessment scores could be counted as proficient or higher in each subject regardless of how many students were assessed or participated. There was no cap on how many students could participate. Under ESSA, states are required to cap the participation rate on the alternate assessment to 1% per subject area at the state level. If a state exceeds 1% of the total student population tested with the alternate assessment, they must submit a waiver to the USED. Here's the new calculation that is based on participation, not proficiency. The total population of students in the state by subject who participate in the alternate assessment in grades 3 through 8 and 10 during the 2017-18 school year would be I-STAR, divided by the total number of students in the state by subject who participate in testing in grades 3 through 8 and 10 during the 2017-18 school year, which is I-STEP and I-STAR. Based on the school year 2016-17 data, Indiana is at 1.2% based on participation.
Based on the 2016-17 school year participation rate of 1.2%, 64% of corporations must submit a justification based on 2016-17 data. Indiana submitted a waiver request to the U.S. Department of Education that includes data, a plan, and a timeline. Indiana anticipates going over 1% again for the 2017-18 school year. Therefore, Indiana must identify corporations that went over 1%, verify districts that followed alternate assessment participation guidance, provide support and oversight to districts, address any disproportionality. All corporations that assess more than 1% of their students on the alternate assessment by subject area on the 2016-17 alternate assessment must submit a justification for why they exceeded 1% participation. Submissions will be done through a survey, which is due Friday, February 16th. Their survey will go out to corporation test coordinators and copied to special education directors and superintendents. If needed, corporations submitting a justification may be subject to further review by the Indiana Department of Education to obtain additional clarification on the submitted information. All corporation justifications will be publicly available per the U.S. Department of Education guidance.
Within the survey, there are 3 options from which corporations may choose. Number 1, school, community, or health programs draw a large number of families of students with significant cognitive disabilities to live in the corporation. Number 2, the corporation has a small overall student population and it takes only a few students participating in the alternate assessment to exceed 1%. Number 3, other. Corporations will be asked to provide a brief justification of variables not covered in the 2 previous options that may contribute to a higher number of students identified with significant cognitive disabilities participating in the alternate assessment. Additionally, corporations must submit an assurance that appropriate staff have been trained on the criteria and that case conference committees are adhering to the criteria as outlined in the criteria for determining participation in alternate assessment guidance document when discussing students' eligibility for participation in I-STAR. Corporations are welcome to use this webinar to fulfill the training requirements. The next few slides go into more detail about the participation guidance resource documents and how to review eligibility data.
Students who meet specific eligibility criteria can participate in I-STAR. The criteria, along with the flow chart and FAQ, can be found under the Additional Resources heading at this link. This is a screenshot of the criteria. The 4 questions here are the same as the 4 questions in Indiana IEP. This is a screenshot of the criteria for determining eligibility to participate in an alternate assessment found in the Indiana IEP system. The case conference committee needs to discuss the 4 criteria questions. If yes is selected for all of them, they then acknowledge that this indicates the student has a significant cognitive disability and is eligible to participate in an alternate assessment. If yes cannot be selected for all 4 criteria questions, this student does not meet the criteria for participation in the alternate assessment. The majority of students, when provided appropriate services and supports, should receive appropriate instruction on grade level standards and take I-STEP.
An additional support on our website is the participation decision for Indiana's academic assessment, FAQ. There are 7 questions, but we want to focus on 3 for now. The first is, who decides that a student should participate in Indiana's alternate assessment? The case conference committee as a group makes the determination on which assessment a student will participate. The next question is, how do we know that a student has a significant cognitive disability? Most students, but not all, with significant cognitive disabilities have intellectual disabilities, multiple disabilities, or autism. Not all students with these disabilities are considered to have a significant cognitive disability. Further, a significant cognitive disability will be pervasive, affecting student learning across content areas and in social and community settings. Determination for student participation in statewide assessment must be evidence-centered and made individually for each student by the case conference committee. Students should not automatically be assigned to the alternate assessment based on their identified disability category. Performing 3 to 4 grade levels below peers without disabilities is also not by itself evidence of a significant cognitive disability. Another question in the FAQ is, if a student has been tested in the past on the alternate assessment, but the current case conference committee determines that the student does not meet the Indiana participation guidance, can the student be assigned to the general assessment? The answer is yes. The case conference committee must ensure that the student receives appropriate instruction on the Indiana academic standards and participates in the required general assessments for the student's current grade level with or without accommodations.
The third resource document on our website is an alternate assessment participation decision flowchart. This would be beneficial to share with parents when case conference committees meet and discuss assessment options. This chart shows the statewide I-STAR data by disability category. We suggest corporations also run this data locally. When you look at Indiana's overall data, a few things are noticeable. For example, it is surprising to see that 12 students with a language or speech impairment participated in I-STAR. Also, 89 students have a primary disability category of orthopedic impairment. Additionally, there are 132 students with specific learning disabilities that participated in I-STAR. Your corporation disaggregate data report can be found on the Questar Indiana admin website. The quick reference guide can be found under the Help tab.
Here are a few resources related to this topic that can be found online. Project Success and Patents are 2 of Indiana's free resource centers that corporations are welcome to contact. Please feel free to reach out to either of us if you have any further questions. Thank you for viewing this recording.